working on a cake the other day and I struggled a little bit with this cake because it's not your typical cake. Cakes that are low carbs or gluten free, but this one in particular was giving me a lot of trouble. The first batch I made, when I flipped the cake, it completely broke down in pieces. I mean, completely. I have never ever seen a cake do that. So I decided to test the cake again. It was a really delicious cake, so it was worth it to try it again. If you've seen my cake videos, I usually tell people not to let the cake completely cool down before getting it out of the pan so you can store it in the fridge. But this cake was not made with flour. And even though I have made cakes using almond flour before, this one in particular was very delicate, at least when it was hot. I decided to do the cake again and let it cool down completely in the pan before trying to get it out of it. But when I did, it still broke down. So I decided to leave one in the fridge inside the pan and see how it did after a night in the fridge. I was able to get it out of the pan, but it took a layer out of it. I could still use the cake, but it's not really the way I like to bake. So I completely changed the way I do things for this cake. I usually don't use parchment paper in my cakes. Typically they come out easily out of my pans, but for this one, it was a must. I usually recommend goop for your pans, but since I was working with a low carb, low sugar cake, I went with just butter. I covered my pan really well with the butter. Then I added the side of the parchment paper, and then I cut the circle and added it to the bottom of the cake. To make sure that everything this time works properly, I added a light coat of butter on top of the parchment paper. Since this cake is particularly delicate while it's warm, after I baked my cake, I didn't take it out of the pan at all. I just covered it with some plastic and then I placed it in the fridge overnight. So once the cake spent a whole night in the fridge, parchment paper included and everything, I was able to get the cake out of the pan with no problem. I did this video so I can show you that if you think you know everything about cake, don't ever think that. Every recipe you might encounter will have something you might need to fix for yourself. So if something is not working for you, just change it. It doesn't mean that the recipe doesn't work. It's simply that you might have to change the way that you make it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, visit my Facebook, Instagram, and join my blog. Until next time, ta-ta!